right. Hey guys, welcome back to the Adler podcast. Today is episode number 55. We've actually reached episode number 55, which is crazy. Today, unfortunately, it's just going to be me, but we've got lots and lots to talk about. As you can see in the description, we've got so much to talk about. First of all, I just wanted to have a quick chat about a show that I thought was coming out today, but apparently, unfortunately, it's not. It's coming out tomorrow, and that is Echo. So we're going to have a quick look at a short teaser trailer that they released a few days ago, and we'll have a look at that. Echo coming out apparently now tomorrow and not today. So I'll be reviewing Echo next week. Hey, Bruce, how's it going, my friend? Hope all is good. Happy New Year. Hope it's going to be a good one. How was your New Year? So that is Echo. Then, obviously, the Golden Globes. It's award season. And as you know, here at the Adler podcast, I especially, because Joe is not the biggest fan, Franco, he seems to like the award season as well. But I especially love award season. And although the Golden Globes have lost a lot of the great status that it once had due to mistakes made by many of the critics who vote and some of the decisions taken there. But still, the Golden Globes are a good indication as to where the award season is directed. And we've got lots of awards to talk about over there. Best Picture, both drama and the comedy. We've got Best Actors to look at, Best Actresses, Best Supporting, and so on and so forth. Also, the interesting thing, the one thing I like about the Golden Globes, it also goes into series. And we're going to see which series was successful from last year. After that, then I don't know if this is my favorite part of the show, but I'll be telling you the worst movies, what, in my opinion, of course, were the worst movies of 2023, as well as the most disappointing movies of 2023. And there are going to be some movies you probably will predict, most viewers will predict, and some maybe you might find a little surprising. And finally, then, I've got 3 reviews for you. First of all, I've got a review for Society of the Snow, which was released on Netflix this week, well, last week, I guess, which I'll talk about. I've got a review for Eileen, which came out on VOD last week as well. And finally, Anyone But, no, not Anyone But You, because I was meaning to go and watch Anyone But You. I did not. Instead, I watched Good Grief. Instead, I watched Good Grief on Netflix yesterday, and I have thoughts about Good Grief as well. Anyone But You, I'll probably be reviewing next week. That came out, I believe, in Eden last week, and I believe came out in Eden last week and coming out in Embassy, I think, tomorrow, I believe. So yeah, that'll be interesting also to talk about. So those are my reviews. So thank you so much to all the viewers and listeners who are joining us today. Let us know in the comment section below how your holidays have been. So Bruce telling us all good, been binging Succession. You're bang on about how good it is, addictive like hell. Oh, we're going to be talking about Succession today because that is a big winner in the Golden Globes, as must be expected, of course. So that is that. Thank you to all 6 viewers who are watching right now. Thank you, Bruce, as well, for joining. So let's get into it. I always like to start off the podcast, obviously, by telling you what it's all about. Since Frank wasn't here to ask, but the Adler podcast is all about movies, all about series, and all about video games today. We've got lots to talk about, and I'm going to start off with what I've actually been up to in the past weeks, because obviously last week here at the Adler podcast, I decided we should take a bit of a break from the podcast. We needed a week to recover. It's been a very long year. Basically streamed every week. Well, not streamed every week. We had the podcast every week and streamed in the last couple of months. So it's been a very busy year, and hopefully this year will continue to improve and grow the Adler podcast. Hello, Keith. Hello. Happy New Year, Keith. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Thank you for joining. How was your New Year, Keith? Let me know. So during the holidays, I received one of the probably best presents I could have received, which was a Blu-ray. And so obviously I went on a crazy binge of different Blu-ray movies during the holidays. I watched Vertigo, which obviously on Blu-ray 4K is just incredible, beautiful, stunning. I watched Mad Max Fury Road, which again was so beautiful on Blu-ray 4K, especially for the sound design, and the soundtrack for Mad Max Fury Road is just crazy good. I also watched Top Gun Maverick with the family, and again, as you can imagine, Top Gun Maverick on Blu-ray 4K is just crazy good, crazy good. Like the final hour or so of that movie is just balls to the wall action, incredible stuff, really good stuff. So I believe those were the movies I watched on Blu-ray. Yes, and then obviously I watched Eileen, I watched The Sight of the Snow, I watched Good Grief on Netflix. I rewatched Ghostbusters, and I just wanted to pass. Oh, good to hear, Keith. Has been good. Good to hear, Keith. I wanted to pass a quick comment about Ghostbusters that I watched recently. Obviously, here I'm talking about the old Ghostbusters. I'm rewatching because I know that we have the new Ghostbusters coming out in March, I believe. We'll be talking about the most exciting upcoming movies next week, and hopefully we'll be joined by Francesca next week. So I was like, yeah, I should rewatch Ghostbusters, and always a classic, right? Always great time watching Ghostbusters, and it feels like it's been a while since I last watched Ghostbusters, because watching Ghostbusters, I thought, man, this movie has not aged well. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if anyone from the chat has recently rewatched Ghostbusters or not, but I recently rewatched it and I was like, Jesus, man, I forgot how sexist this movie was. I mean, especially Bill Murray's character. I mean, obviously that's the whole point of Bill Murray's character, right? But man, some of the jokes and some of the scenes in it, obviously I don't want to go into detail because of YouTube and the whole blocking, because of talking about sexual activity, but there's some seriously fucked up stuff in Ghostbusters. So yeah, I feel like it hasn't aged that well. I don't know if any of the viewers agree or disagree with me. If you disagree with me, please let me know. So that's Ghostbusters. Oh, another movie I watched, and I really had a good time watching it, however, was Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I hadn't watched Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This was first time I was watching it. Fantastic movie, just fantastic movie. And I feel like watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers just puts me into a hole of like full-on sci-fi, because after watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers, then I decided, agree, aged awfully. Gremlins is much better. Came out same weekend. Oh, Gremlins. I haven't watched Gremlins, I think, since secondary school, Bruce. So my memory on Gremlins is a little weak. That's another good rewatch. That's another good rewatch I should be doing. But yeah, good to hear I'm not going crazy, because I felt like I was going crazy watching Ghostbusters. Like, man, I don't like these characters at all. And again, maybe the whole point is not to make the characters as likable, but I just couldn't get behind any of the four protagonists in Ghostbusters. I was like, actually, the antagonists are right. They are doing some pretty horrid stuff. No, it has been a while since I watched the original. We'll try to catch up on it before the new one comes out. Yeah. Let me know what you think about it, Keith, because I mean, Bruce is kind of confirming my thoughts, but I don't know, I'm a little worried I might be maybe getting a bit too old for stuff like Ghostbusters. I mean, I've hated pretty much all the Star Wars that has come out recently, and now disliking Ghostbusters, I think maybe I'm getting a bit too old for some of this stuff, or maybe it's just it aging a little bit, and that happens as well. But I did definitely enjoy Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I think it's a well-made sci-fi thriller. Really pushes the idea of, is this person a real human, or is it an alien? And it creates a real great tension. I really liked Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I think that's pretty much all I've watched. I mean, I can go through my Letterboxd to have an idea, but I've watched some other stuff. That I think that's the most relevant stuff that I've watched in the past couple of weeks. So with that, let's get into what you're all here for, which is the news and the reviews. And to start off with, I'm going to start off with a quick chat about this upcoming series. Like I said, I thought Echo was coming out today. And I went home And I was like, okay, I'm going to watch all 5 episodes and review them tonight for the podcast. No, it comes out tomorrow. Or I guess maybe it comes out this night and maybe it will be available tomorrow morning. I don't know, but clearly it hasn't released yet. So, Maya Lopez and Kingpin will begin their bloody drama that will kickstart the new year for MCU fans with a bang after a very bleak year for the MCU. All eyes are on the upcoming series, which will follow Maya Lopez as she reconnects with her Native American roots as she runs from her past. A new teaser has been unveiled to hype the fans further, promising action and blood in the upcoming TV show. Teaser sees Maya visiting her father's grave as we hear Kingpin comparing her to tigers who move in silence to catch their prey. Trailer then goes on to prepare fans for the tension-filled 5-episode event as Maya is seen heading into a confrontation with Kingpin, not backing away from a gun pulled on her. And in a fight with the fan-favorite Daredevil, more importantly, as the preview ends, it is clear Maya has defied Kingpin and as he yells, "What did you do?" So that's pretty much what we got to see in the trailer. You obviously can check out the trailer on YouTube. I can't show it because of YouTube and blocking the stream. So I had a couple of comments I wanted to mention about the series. First of all, the fact that this is a mature series. Good to see Marvel getting into like mature storytelling. Obviously, the approach seems to be more similar to the Netflix Marvel projects, the Daredevil, the Jessica Jones, which I really liked. So that's a good sign. I also found out that it's created by Marion Dare, right? So if you've heard that name before, it's familiar, especially if you're a fan of Better Call Saul, like I am. And yeah, it's being a director on Better Call Saul obviously is a very good sign that you're a talented person. And also, obviously, it's very good to see someone like Vincent D'Onofrio back as Wilson Fisk. It's very good to see someone like Charlie Cox back as Matt Murdock and Daredevil. I'm excited to see them in the show. Unfortunately, not everything looks great because I can't show it on this stream, but some of you might have seen it. Recently, they leaked a fight between Daredevil and Echo. It was this one-take fight kind of scene because that's obviously become very popular recently in Hollywood. But the issue there is the fight looks awful. Like a fight just looks weightless. It looks weak. None of the kicks and the punches seem to connect. And I wrote it down because I wanted to state this comment. And it seemed like one of those Netflix one-take fights, but bought from Shine. So it looked really bad. Now, to be fair, first reactions for this series, because obviously many critics got to watch it early, many critics have been quite positive about it. So most of the comments have been actually quite positive. But then again, generally, first comments tend to be quite positive anyways. So I'll let you know next week. Obviously, tomorrow it releases. I'll be watching it and then reviewing it next week. So that is Echo. Moving on now. Actually, we've got a couple of news pieces that came out literally in the past couple of hours, which I wanted to mention. First of all, apparently, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about this because we have more important stuff to talk about today, but apparently a Star Wars Mandalorian movie with Jon Favreau directing is a go. And it seems that for now, it's titled The Mandalorian and Grogu. No details are yet out there, but I think the one comment we can take from this is that it seems that Star Wars, under Kathleen Kennedy and obviously Dave Filoni taking on the creative role there, the kind of like creative leadership there, Star Wars is being directed back to the cinema after the disastrous rise of Skywalker. It's good to see Star Wars back in the cinema, right? Because I mean, it's fine, it's comfortable, it's convenient to watch Star Wars on the TV. But I mean, Star Wars is a cinematic experience first and foremost, and I want to go watch Star Wars in the cinema. Now, the Mandalorian movie, I don't know. The last season of The Mandalorian, both me and Joe weren't the biggest of fans of it. I enjoyed some episodes, but overall, I thought it was a disappointing return for The Mandalorian. So hopefully, Jon Favreau can, steady that ship. I know there was a lot of studio intervention there, which might not have helped the case, but hopefully, we can get back to the classic to the classic, Mando and Grogu adventures, which is what we loved from season one, especially. Bruce, Disney needs to pump the brakes on MCU and Star Wars. I agree completely. I think we do need a break from both Marvel and Star Wars. But Bruce, you know better than I that that's never going to happen. Disney needs to make money for the shareholders, and Disney knows that the MCU and Star Wars are their two biggest money makers. So there is no way ever are they going to stop Star Wars and the MCU. Maybe, however, they are going through some course correction right now. There's been comments by Kevin Feige, there's been comments by Dave Filoni, how the direction they're taking the MCU and Star Wars is different to the past few years. They're just comments, they're just words. Hopefully, they're not just words, right? But obviously, we'll see about that in the next coming few years. To be fair, this year, Bruce, there's, I believe, only one proper MCU movie coming out, which is Deadpool 3. And I have high hopes for Deadpool 3 because I think, you've got Ryan Reynolds, you've got a great concept there. And so far, I've not been disappointed by either the first or the second movie. So just one MCU movie coming out this year. And I believe DC, there's pretty much no big movies coming out this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we've only got Penguin coming out this year, which I'm very much looking forward to, because that's obviously handled by Matt Reeves, the incredibly talented Matt Reeves. So to be fair, we do have kind of a bit of a break on the superhero stuff this year. Apart from then, obviously there's the Sony stuff, but the Sony stuff is kind of on its own. And I mean, Madam Web, Craven the Hunter. Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not excited about that at all. But anyways, moving on. Let's move on. Enough talking about Star Wars. More important stuff to talk about today. The Last of Us. I was surprised to see this news. I mean, not surprised to see this news. I'm surprised to see it come out. I've been expecting this for a very long time. But for fans of The Last of Us, we have casting news. Now, if you've only watched the series, you'll have no idea who the hell Abby is. If you've played The Last of Us 2, you'll know that Abby, no spoilers here for The Last of Us 2, of course. I'm always very careful when it comes to spoilers. But The Last of Us 2, in The Last of Us 2, Abby is a very, very, very important character. Fans do not love Abby, and that's all I'm going to say. But the casting of Abby is now out by HBO, and it is Caitlin Dever. Now, if you're recognizing Caitlin Dever, you've recently watched No One Will Save You, which was one of my personal favorite movies of 2023. 11th place. If you watched the last couple of weeks ago, we talked about top 10 movies of 2023, and No One Will Save You actually finished in the 11th spot. I was so upset it didn't make my top 10. And the star of No One Will Save You was actually Caitlin Dever, who gave a fantastic top performance in No One Will Save You. So, seeing Caitlin Dever cast as Abby gives me mixed thoughts. I love Caitlin Dever. I hate Abby. And that's all I'm going to say, because I can't say anything else, because I'll spoil what happens in The Last of Us 2. And I don't know if any of the viewers in the chat right now maybe haven't played The Last of Us 2, but have watched the first season of The Last of Us. First season of The Last of Us, which I know a lot of people loved. I personally liked it. I didn't love it. I thought there were issues with pacing, some storylines which didn't need as much attention. Development from Ellie and Joel, the relationship there was a bit lacking at times. So, and also the whole threat of the clickers was, I believe, and all the elements, all the survival elements in it were severely missing. The whole zombie apocalypse element was severely lacking in The Last of Us. So too many issues for me personally, for me to love The Last of Us. But I know a lot of people really enjoyed that series, and I'm glad they did. So that is another piece of news we had to talk about today. And with that, guys, let's get into the Golden Globes. So, starting off, the Golden Globes, obviously, we know by now that, let's start off from the very bottom there. We know by now that Oppenheimer reigned at the 81st Golden Globe Awards on Sunday, just as it once loomed large at the summer box office, the sprawling examination of J. Robert Oppenheimer and the creation of the atomic bomb racked up 5 wins, the most of any movie, including the prize for Best Motion Picture Drama. On the television front, Succession, a scabrous look at a Murdoch-esque mogul and his dysfunctional family, won a leading 4 prizes, including Best Drama Series. And the show ended its 4-season run in May. So the big winners of the Golden Globes were the two, well, I could say my 2 favorite pieces of art coming out, of film and TV coming out in 2023, Oppenheimer and Succession. So let's get into the Golden Globes. First of all, a quick comment about the Golden Globes themselves. I thought it was, as a show, extremely disappointing. The majority of the jokes were awful. I'm sorry, it didn't work for me. Obviously, I didn't watch the whole thing. I was fast asleep at that time, just watched some clips here and there, but the jokes that I watched, awful. But with the awards, I have to be honest, this is one of the first award ceremonies that I actually agree with almost all the awards, which is a surprise. I think they're just playing it a bit safe, but it's good to see. For once, I'm agreeing with the most of what the critics had to say. Starting off with what, in my opinion, is one of the stupidest and one of the most useless awards ever, cinematic and box office achievement. I mean, obviously, Barbie made the most money this year, and obviously, Barbie wins it. Like, I really don't get this. People in the chat, let me know if you agree with me or not. This, I think, is the most useless and the most pathetic award ever. Awarding Barbie just so you can have more viewers. I mean, I honestly don't get it. But anyways, moving on. Stand up, I don't watch, so I can't comment about that. Best Motion Picture Animated, I've pretty much watched all of them, except for the winner, The Boy and the Heron. First of all, Elemental was decent. I liked all of these movies. I loved Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I quite liked Suzume. I don't know what Wish is doing there. Wish shouldn't be here. I'm sure there's much more great stuff than Wish this year. Thinking about Nimona, for example. Nimona should be there instead of Wish. Wish was, in my opinion, I wouldn't say awful, but I'd say quite bad. So that is Wish. So the winner is The Boy and the Heron, which unfortunately has not released in Malta so far. Just getting more viewers is the point of the Box Office Achievement Award. Exactly, Keith. Exactly my thoughts. Simply there just to have Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig on stage. And obviously Margot Robbie showing off her dress. And obviously people who, I don't know who takes care of the Golden Globes. People who take care of the Golden Globes know that Margot Robbie is a big pull, right? Especially right now. And so Barbie will pull in people. And then obviously you've got people from Guardians of the Galaxy. You've got people from John Wick Chapter 4. We had Keanu Reeves, for example, there. Tom Cruise there with For Mission Impossible. And, you know, Super Mario Brothers movie, Taylor Swift. Another reason why they wanted to do this. We've got Taylor Swift there, pulling in all the Swifties to watch. And to be fair, it worked because this was the most viewed, I believe, Golden Globes with quite a large viewership. No, maybe not the most viewed, but at least recent. It was double the viewership from last year. So, Keith, I mean, to be fair, it kind of worked for them, but still, I think that award is completely useless and pointless. Anyways, so The Boy and the Heron wins Best Motion Picture Animated. Moving on to Best Original Song in a Motion Picture, I've watched pretty much all these movies, and I agree. I think I agree. What Was I Made For, I think, was a very, very important song in Barbie. I think the moment in which it's played and near the end of the movie and the, kind of like the whole montage of different women going through different important parts of their lives. I think that montage was beautiful. I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, great stuff. Joe Coy was a slow motion train crash as host. Yeah, talking about slow motion, it's like directed by the Golden Globes were directed by Zack Snyder. Because Jesus Christ, some of those jokes, the guy really did not read the room. And did you see, Bruce? Did you see the moment he passed the joke about the NFL showing Taylor Swift more than the Golden Globes. That joke really did not work at all. Talking about that, I'm just gonna have to take a sip, just like Taylor Swift did. Anyways, so to be fair, however, Bruce, I feel like I agree with most of these awards. Obviously, I haven't watched The Boy and the Heron, but Studio Ghibli, like, I'm obviously going to love it. Personally, I loved Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, but I mean, obviously, eventually I'll watch The Boy and the Heron. I think I will agree with this eventually. With regard to Barbie, What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish and Phineas, I think, again, I think that's a well-deserved win. The song was important for the plot, an important story element, very emotional as well, very well-made song. So I completely agree with it. I would have been very happy with I'm Just Ken as well. I think I'm Just Ken was another very important, very well done, a hilarious song played. Glad Peaches isn't twin. Oh my God, that song is overrated. Moving on to Best Picture, non-English language. Now, I haven't watched all these movies. I've actually only watched three of these: Anatomy of a Fall, Past Lives, Society of the Snow. Society of the Snow, I'll be talking about later on. Past Lives, I liked, I didn't love. And Anatomy of a Fall, I think, was a fantastically written, fantastic script, fantastic performance by Sandra Huller. Very, very, very well deserved winner for Best Picture, non-English language. And I think the fact that France is not taking Anatomy of a Fall for best foreign language picture in the Oscars is actually going to cost them the Oscars. That is a big, big mistake, not taking Anatomy of a Fall. So completely agreed, Anatomy of a Fall was fantastic. I would actually put Anatomy of a Fall amongst my favorites for Best Picture, not just non-English language, but for the whole Best Picture. I think it was that good. Anatomy of a Fall was amazing. Such a great script. All right, so Best Original Score. We've got, I mean, obviously, Ludwig Göransson winning it for Oppenheimer. I don't think there's any discussion to be had here. I liked all these soundtracks, apart from Zone of Interest, which I haven't watched. But, and The Boy and Heron, of course, I haven't watched, but I thought the Spider-Man soundtrack was great. Killers of the Flower Moon soundtrack was great. Very effective in creating tension. But talking about tension, I mean, Oppenheimer's soundtrack is incredible. So, Bruce, Anatomy of a Fall is great, but 30 minutes too long. Better than Past Lives, though. Wasn't impressed by that. You know what, Bruce? I also wasn't impressed by Past Lives. I might have gone in with expectations being a tad too high. And that might have been the issue there. I think Anatomy of a Fall is going to be nominated for Best Picture. Oh, I hope it is, Keith. I hope Anatomy of a Fall is nominated for Best Picture for the Oscars. I think it would be a tragedy. I think it would be a crime if Anatomy of a Fall is not there fighting for Best Picture. I think that would be a big, 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 big pity. Really, really big pity. Not we'll see. We'll see, of course. All right, 1 second. All right, moving on to Best Original Score we've done. All right, now talking about TV series, Best Performance by an Actress, Limited Series, Anthology Series, or a Motion Picture made for television. And I think Ali Wong is a well-deserved winner here. I think Brie Larson was fantastic in Lessons in Chemistry. Elizabeth Olsen was very good in Love and Death as well, but I think Ali Wong is well deserving of this win. For Beef, great series. I really, really like Beef. And same thing for Stephen Yeun for Beef. Again, there are some very good performances here. I know Matt Bomer was very good in Fellow Travelers. John Hamm, of course, always great. But Stephen Yeun, very, very well-deserved performance. I think his kind of like his chemistry with Ali Wong, the way that dynamic works, that character dynamic works, was absolutely out of this world. One of the best series of 2023 and well-deserved there by Beef. Best limited series is Beef. I believe All the Light We Cannot See was okay. Fargo is always great. Of course, Lessons in Chemistry was very good as well, but I think Beef is a well-deserving winner there. Best Supporting Actress, I'm glad to see Elizabeth Debicki there winning for The Crown. Abby Elliott, of course, very good in The Bear. J. Smith Cameron, always great in Succession. I haven't watched Only Murders in the Building, so I can't comment about that. Hannah Waddingham in Ted Lasso was fine. I think, well, to be fair, no, actually, she had some very strong moments in the last season of Ted Lasso, season 3. So, yeah, I see why she's nominated there. But honestly, Elizabeth Debicki was out of this world as Lady Diana. She was perfect, perfect tonally, perfect. Every single little bit of nuance of the character of Princess Diana was right there. Fantastic performance by Elizabeth Debicki. Best Supporting Actor, I mean, Matthew McFadden. No way he wasn't winning that. Although, to be fair, I thought Alexander Skarsgård was in with a good chance of winning this as well. I think his performance in Succession as the kind of like the main antagonist of the final season was very good. But I mean, Matthew McFadden, just his final couple of episodes were out of this world. He completely, totally dominated the screen as Tom, and what a surprise ending to that series. Best actor in a TV series, not surprised at all to see Jeremy Allen White winning that. Of course, in The Bear, I don't understand how that is a comedy, one of the most tense, one of the most depressing series I've ever watched. But yeah, Jeremy Allen White winning that is, I mean, no surprise at all. No, don't worry, Bruce. No spoilers here. But yeah, you're in for a ride if you've only watched season 1. Best actress in a TV series, musical or comedy, Aya Debiri, as always, excellent in it. The Bear, she's pretty much the heart of that series. Such a talented actress, and I'm happy to see her win for that. Natasha Lyonne was fantastic in Poker Face as well. I would have been happy to see her win that as well. Obviously, I can't comment about the rest because I haven't watched them. Sarah Snook winning for Succession. I thought Sarah Snook's performance in some of the episodes, no spoilers, Bruce, don't worry. I thought Sarah Snook's performance in pretty much all the episodes of Succession were out of this world. But I would say that the best performance is very well deserved, and that is Kieran Culkin winning also for Succession. Pretty much a Succession carrying all the important awards here, because Kieran Culkin in the final season of Succession was just out of this world great. Such a fantastic performance. So very well deserved by Kieran Culkin. The Bear winning Best Television Series, Musical or Comedy, very well deserved. And 1 second, because I think I had a phone call on Facebook. And also Best Television Drama. And also Best Television Series and Drama, Succession winning that. Like if you were here a couple of weeks ago, you'll know I mean, my thoughts about Succession, everything about that series is just out of this world great. Great performances, great cinematography, great writing, fantastic writing and character development, and the way the characters take decisions is never like a surprise. You're always like something that is expected, but then there's a shocking moment. But the series had been building to that moment. So, I mean, Succession is up there as my second all-time favorite series ever made. Moving on to the movies now. Davine Joy Randolph, not a surprise at all to see Davine Joy Randolph winning for The Holdovers. I think I would say this is the most competitive award out there, with Emily Blunt, who is a big favorite to win as well. Danielle Brooks, also a big favorite to win for The Color Purple. Julianne Moore had a good performance in May, December, but I don't think she's in for the run. Rosamund Pike, also very good for Saltburn, but I think Davine Joy Randolph, Danielle Brooks, and Emily Blunt are 3 very probable winners of this. So when you've got 3 massively talented actresses challenging for the Best Supporting Actress, that makes Best Supporting Actress probably the hardest award to win this year, probably. But Davine Joy Randolph, you know my thoughts about The Holdovers. I thought she was the heart of that movie. Such a great performance by her in The Holdovers. Fantastic. Great performance across from Paul Giamatti. She really was the heart of that movie. And the way she managed to like show us how her character was kind of like fragile and recovering from obviously the horrific death of her son, but still managed to be a strong presence in this movie. was fantastic. Perfect, perfect performance by her. Now, Best Supporting Actor, a another very strong award, because we've got Willem Dafoe for Poor Things, Robert De Niro, who, in my opinion, was incredible. Yes, Kate Devine Joy Randolph is sweeping almost everything in many major awards so far. Completely agreed. Which is testament to how good she was in The Holdovers. Considering, again, we've got Emily Blunt, who, in my opinion, Emily Blunt had. I know this is a controversial take, and not a lot of people will agree with me, but Emily Blunt's performance in Oppenheimer was the best performance in Oppenheimer, and I loved Cillian Murphy's performance in Oppenheimer. But Emily Blunt, in my opinion, and I know I'm probably alone with this opinion, I think she was the best performer in Oppenheimer. Controversial, but that's my take. So considering that, considering how popular Daniel Brooks' performance in The Color Purple has been, and considering all the other big names there, the fact that Davine Joy Randolph is sweeping all the major awards for Best Supporting Actress is testament to how bloody fantastic she was in The Holdovers. Best Supporting Actor, we've got Robert Downey Jr. winning. We had in my opinion, one of the best performances ever by Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon. Ryan Gosling is also a big favorite for Barbie. Charles Melton is, in my opinion, should be the deserving winner of this award. And unfortunately, I haven't watched Poor Things yet. It's not released so far in Malta, but I've heard great stuff about Mark Ruffalo's performance as well. But Robert Downey Jr. winning it for Oppenheimer, and I cannot say that is not deserved as well. He was just watching Oppenheimer and seeing the final hour of that movie, the tension that develops, and like the peak of that movie with Robert Downey Jr.'s character kind of like recognizing. I don't want to spoil Oppenheimer in case anyone in the chat hasn't watched it, but you know what I'm talking about when you've got the big shock vote, kind of not vote, well, I guess voting at the end of Oppenheimer. And yeah, that moment was fantastic. Paul Giamatti winning for Best Performance by an Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy for The Holdovers. Holdovers, obviously, I think, well, to be fair, Holdovers does fit as a comedy. It's kind of like a crazy take, blunt, kind of hammed it up, lazily written part. Oh, really, Bruce? Damn. I'm going to be honest with you, Bruce. The whole kind of like final hour, in my opinion, was dominated by Emily Blunt. I thought she was so good, and she has some really strong moments. Damn. All right. Yeah, I know. I know. To be fair, I know a lot of people really liked her performance, but maybe me saying that she was the best performance is taking a bit too far. But that's my opinion. So we've got some decent performances here, but I think definitely Paul Giamatti here was a big favorite to win it for The Holdovers, and very well deserved. I think his performance in The Holdovers was, again, heartfelt. You see his character change throughout. His dynamic with Cessa, I can't remember his name. Something Cessa, however, in The Holdovers, the dynamic there, the way that that dynamic developed, the teacher-student relationship that develops there was great. And then almost becoming a father figure for Cessa's character, really well done. So very well deserved by Giamatti. Best performance by an actress, Emma Stone. I can't comment about that because, like I said, Poor Things hasn't released in Malta yet, but I've watched all the other movies apart from The Color Purple here. I mean, I think she's probably deserving winner, but again, I can't comment because I haven't watched Poor Things. Lily Gladstone winning for Killers of the Flower Moon. Bruce, want another crazy take? I feel she got a rather undeserved drunk bitter wife role. She feels pretty lost in the mix of me. That's what I worried about midway through the movie. Bruce, I was worried she's going to get the drunk bitter wife role, but her she has a turn once the whole court case starts midway through the movie. And her character kind of, in my opinion, kind of takes the lead. Oppenheimer kind of takes a back seat to her midway through the movie. And the way she leads and how powerful her presence is during the whole court case that was going on. I thought she was fantastic in that whole second part of the movie. I will agree at the start, it did feel like that was the direction they were going for. But later on in the movie, the drunk, bitter wife, kind of like, the classic drunk, bitter wife role, she kind of left that and she took a much stronger presence in the movie, in my opinion, again. Um, do you want another crazy take, by the way, Bruce? I think the winner of this should be Sandra Huller. And the second favorite, in my opinion, should be Carey Mulligan for Maestro. I didn't love Maestro, kind of liked it, I guess, but I thought Carey Mulligan was fantastic in Maestro. But Anatomy of a Fall, like that scene, that court scene with the audio being played and the whole argument between Sandra Huller and her husband, I think that scene should lock it for Sandra Huller to win Best Performance by an Actress in a Motion Picture, in my opinion. Possibly a crazy take, I don't know. But yeah, I loved Sandra Huller's performance. Don't get me wrong, Lily Gladstone was great in Killers of the Flower Moon. She is, like I said, for example, Davine Joy Randolph's performance in The Holdovers. She is the heart of Killers of the Flower Moon. But it's a bit strange seeing her as a best performance by an actress because, I mean, she's pretty much not in half the movie, right? Due to actions that Leonardo DiCaprio's character does in Killers of the Flower Moon. Totally agree about Huller. Way more impressive than Gladstone. That's my thought. Don't get me wrong. Gladstone was very good in Killers of the Flower Moon. But my possibly crazy take is that I think Sandra Huller should be favorite here. Moving on to Best Performance by an Actor in a Motion Picture and Drama. And we've got Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. I think it's hard to argue with this. I believe the only competition for him here is Bradley Cooper for Maestro. I liked Bradley Cooper in Maestro, but I think, talking about hamming it up a little bit, I think he did ham it up just a little bit in Maestro. Cillian Murphy was a natural in Oppenheimer. Fantastic nuanced performance, great use of pretty much great performance overall by Cillian Murphy. I think he's well-deserved winner here. Keith, Lily Gladstone has a limited role, but she steals the movie from DiCaprio and De Niro, in my opinion. So I agree with the DiCaprio comment because I don't think that was one of DiCaprio's greatest performances. I think it was fine, but just fine. De Niro, man, Keith, I love De Niro's performance in Killers. I loved his performance. I thought he was so deliciously evil in that movie. So I think I disagree with you, not entirely. I can understand why you would see Lily Gladstone, completely stealing the movie because she's great. I just really loved De Niro's performance in that. He was so deliciously evil. Anyways, now this is a surprise and a welcome one. Very welcome one, because I think this is so well deserved. Because I completely agree with the critics who voted for the Golden Globes that Anatomy of a Fall has the best screenplay. I know, Bruce, you said that it's 30 minutes too long, right? I believe you said it a bit before. But holy crap, was the screenplay for Anatomy of a Fall just so good. Like the dialogue, everything about Anatomy of a Fall, the way the story develops, the way the story manages to give us hints of information through the court case taking place, the way we, the viewers, are like the jury, they're learning things slowly through stuff that comes out, through evidence, through people who are there, through everything. Just so well done. Anatomy of a Fall, well-deserving winner for best screenplay, in my opinion. I don't think there was any competition here. Christopher Nolan was always going to win Best Director for Oppenheimer. I think we've talked more than enough about Oppenheimer and how well directed that movie is. And Best Picture, musical or comedy. I haven't watched Poor Things, so can't comment about that. But Best Motion Picture Drama is won by Oppenheimer. So Oppenheimer pretty much sweeping all the major awards for movies. With regard to drama, obviously, and Poor Things doing very well as well. I'm very much looking forward to watching Poor Things. Please, Eden Embassy, release Poor Things in the cinemas. Gladstone's more of a support to me. She's a bit of blank slate for a lot of the film, intentionally hard to read, but perhaps, but still. Very intentionally hard to read. I agree on that. But I think I liked her a bit more than you did, Bruce. I think you seem to be on the kind of like didn't really like her performance. I would say I'm quite positive about her performance. Just don't think she was as good as Sandra Huller and Carey Mulligan, who, in my opinion, carried those two movies. So that's pretty much it for the Golden Globes. Thank you so much. I'm going to take a quick break, guys. I'm going to take a sip of water, rest my voice a little bit, but don't go. We've got the worst movies and the most disappointing movies of 2023. I need your support to talk about all that shit. So give me a couple of minutes. I am going to take a quick break, and I'll be back with the worst movies of 2023. Be right back. All right, and we're back, and it's time for, oh no, the most disappointing movies of 2023. And we're going to start off with a big one. Give me 1 second. Let me bring up the movie on IMDb. I know Joe will not be happy with this, and probably neither will Franco. Forgive me. But my number 5 most disappointing movie of 2023 is Napoleon. I know some people might be angry with this choice, but I thought Napoleon was very disappointing. Now, forget all the criticism I had in my review about how historically inaccurate it was. Clearly, this is Hollywood, this is not history, right? But there were some positives. So, always clearly, I did quite enjoy the battle sequences in Napoleon. I thought the battle sequences were well shot, great use of CGI and special effects, pretty much seamless, big budget movie, always enjoyable. Vanessa Kirby, very good performance as well. I really liked her take on Josephine. Um, Pretty much those two elements are ensured that this didn't go into the worst movies of the year. Yes, Napoleon is my most disappointing movie of the year. Oh, thank you, Keith. I'm not the only one then. I'm not going crazy. Sometimes with some of my takes, I feel like I'm going crazy. But then I see then I see people agreeing with me. I'm like, okay, whew, not going crazy so far. And Bruce, even you, Bruce, agreeing with me. Totally with you 100%. Now, obviously, here we're talking about disappointing, right? Not the worst. The worst list will come after the most disappointing list. So I don't think it's inherently an awful movie. I one could argue it's a bad movie. Definitely. I would agree 100% with you if you had to say it was a bad movie. I still gave it a 3 out of 5. But for a Ridley Scott movie about Napoleon, a 3 out of 5 for me is a massive disappointment. Uh, First of all, emotionless. Zero emotions. Nothing. Zero emotions. The way its treatment of Napoleon is clearly the treatment that a British person would give to a character like Napoleon. I think Napoleon needs to be directed by a talented French director. It's more close to being bad rather than good. Interesting statement there, Keith. I would have to think about that. But and I gave it a 3 out of 5. But to be honest with you, the more I think about Napoleon, the lower the rating gets. The lower the rating gets. But like I was saying, I thought its treatment of Napoleon was criminal, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not expecting every movie about a big historical figure to be like just showcasing how awesome and how epic that character was. But Jesus, we're talking about Napoleon here. And Joaquin Phoenix's take clearly, I don't know if you guys remember, but prior to or during the filming of Napoleon, Joaquin Phoenix came out with a statement that 1 week before full filming of Napoleon started, he still had no idea how he was going to approach the character of Napoleon. And that can be clearly seen in the movie because he just went with his take on in Joker. He just went with Joker, but instead in a period piece movie. So its treatment of Napoleon, in my opinion, was a complete mess. Finally, completely just disjointed. I thought this movie, unfortunately, had to, because you're telling the story of a massive historical figure like Napoleon in 2 hours and 38 minutes. Unfortunately, this turned the movie into Napoleon's greatest hits. So, because of that, I'm not blaming the editing because they had a thankless task, but the movie just, does the transition between one important historical event to another were awful. Oh, that's the awful part of this movie, in my opinion. So that is my number 5, Napoleon. Moving on, 2 out of 5. It's an overlong, complicated compilation of historical documentary reenactment scenes. I can agree with that, Bruce. But then you've got the whole relationship between Napoleon and Josephine. And the fact that Vanessa Kirby, in my opinion, gave such a good performance there. She really held the movie on her shoulders, in my opinion. Really held the movie on her shoulders. She did kind of save the movie from floundering, again, in my opinion. The battle sequences as well, I think, were very well done. Although, if they followed the true historical, notes by Napoleon himself and some of his generals, the battle sequences would be so much more interesting. Number 4 in my list of most disappointing movies of 2023 is The Flash. Now, for those of you who watched or listened to my review of The Flash, you might be kind of surprised and thinking, but didn't he kind of like The Flash? I did. I kind of did. Still blame it on Tom Cruise and James Gunn. I mean, James Gunn came out saying that, The Flash is the best movie of the year, is the best comic book movie of all time. And Tom Cruise saying The Flash is the movie we need right now, is the movie that will save cinema. So I went into The Flash with high expectations. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a mess. Bit of a mess is an understatement. The CGI, horrific. That baby scene, Batman, CGI Batman on a bike, awful, such bad CGI. Listen, I understood there is some soul behind this movie. You can see there is a bit of a beating heart here, and that pretty much comes out with the relationship between Ezra Miller, the Flash, and his mother, and kind of like his will to save his mom. I understand that. That's well done. And also the relationship between the kind of like the past. I forgot how it was, but the two different versions of the Flash. I kind of like completely forgot about the Flash by now. That also works. And Ezra Miller's performance as those two roles was decent. Michael Keaton also very good. So there are some saving graces for the Flash, but it turns the final hour of that movie, or the final 45 minutes of that movie, such a clusterfuck of awful CGI, boring combat and action, just such a mess of a movie. So The Flash is my number 4. Number three, I don't think anyone at all is surprised to see this movie in the list, because number 3 is one of the movies I most criticized this year. That is Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. I'm sorry, but anyone here who liked Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I thought the CGI and the visuals for that were absolutely awful. I think the color palette for that movie was absolutely awful. CGI was taken too far. And like I said when I reviewed it with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I finally agreed with Martin Scorsese's take that these are not true movies. This is not a movie. The Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is not a real movie. There's no heart, no soul behind it, no interesting characters, no interesting plot. Nothing works. Nothing works. I think this is also the straw that broke the camel's back when it came to the MCU. For many viewers, not just the diehard viewers of MCU, but also the casuals. Many casuals, I think, ended their love for the MCU with this movie. The dialogue and the writing were some of the worst of the year. Quantumania is CG soup. The thing is, Bruce, it's not good CG soup. If it was good, I mean, sure, all well and good, but it was bad CG soup, such awful CG. Bruce, do you remember the "It's never too late, stop being a dick"? That was an actual line in an MCU movie. Oh, and also, like Bruce said, this is one of the worst looking movies of the year. Terrible, terrible movie. But there is worse, because Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was number 3. Moving on to number 2, one of the more recent movies on this list is Wish. Wish, which in my opinion was a terrible, terrible Disney movie. Many of you have heard or seen my review for Wish. And you will know that I did quite like the voice acting. I thought Chris Pine and Ariana DeBose were good in it, and they deserved much better written characters because everything in this movie was so bland and so uninspired. The characters were underwritten, the animation and the style. I'm trying to. I'm still going to therapy sessions over it. oh, oh my God! And when there was Quantumania, forcing you to to go to therapy to recover from it. I understand completely, Bruce. Trust me. Oh, that's such an awful movie. Such an awful movie. Anyways, so Wish, like I said, underwritten, bland characters. Really bland, really boring animation, and the style chosen for this, the mixture of 2D, hand drawn 2D and animated 3D, did not work. The colors in for the animation were bland and boring and so dull. The music, most of the music was pretty bad as well, apart from the one hit, Make a Wish. This is a Wish. I forgot the name of the song. It pretty much tries to do an Encanto, but I mean, completely fails, right? Also, about the animation, I wanted to mention the animations looked unfinished. I'm going to be honest with you, it does feel like the animations for this movie were unfinished. But then we have a look at the directors of this movie. And would you be surprised to see that this was a director for Frozen? This is a person who worked on Hercules, who worked on Mulan, who worked on Frozen. He was the director of Frozen. So I don't get how they went so wrong with Wish. But Wish, I'm sorry, was really bad. And to no one's surprise at all, anyone who watched the Christmas special episode of the Adler podcast will know what's coming next. My number 1 most disappointing movie of 2023 was indeed Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. I mean, what is more is there to say about this, right? Disney really had a bad year. Agreed, Keith. Agreed completely. But Netflix also had a pretty bad run when it came to its originals and exclusives. Because Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire was one awful movie. I'm sorry. I know that some people said it's not awful. In my opinion, Rebel Moon is awful. Talk about CG soup, Bruce. This movie's CGI was terrible. Terrible. The visuals were bland. The color palette, disastrous color palette. The characters, what the fuck was that? I mean, how did we end up with a kind of like a go to a planet, like Ashley said in his review? I was watching his review just a couple of hours ago. Like Ashley said, go to the planet, meet a new character, never see them again, never find out anything interesting about them again. Go to another planet, meet a new character, they join the group, Never hear anything interesting about him again. The upsetting thing is that Zack Snyder clearly took inspiration from Seven Samurai, which is one of my personal favorite movies ever made. And apart from the great action, fantastic cinematography, um, epic feel of it, great writing, great dialogue, another great element of Seven Samurai is how distinctive and how interesting each of the samurai is. And Zack Snyder clearly did not understand that. Sofia Boutella, I'm sorry. I was looking forward to seeing her lead the movie. I'm sorry. She's not, at least for now, she's not a capable lead for a movie. Maybe she is with good writing, but from what we've seen so far, she is not. The worlds that we see, pretty bland, pretty boring. The people and the aliens who populate it, pretty bland, pretty boring. The blurry images, I don't get this fucking camera use that Zack Snyder decided on. Please make everything clear. The color grading, I've already mentioned this, terrible. The reds, I'm sorry, that's bland. It's bland. The action, how did Zack Snyder direct a movie with boring, uninspired action? I don't get it. I'm sorry. Rebel Moon is indeed my number one most disappointing movie of 2023. And with that, there is worse. Because those were just the most disappointing movies of the year. Now we're going to move on to the worst movies of 2023. Starting off with number 5. Number 5 still being Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. So, apart from Rebel Moon being the most disappointing movie of 2023, I also think that Rebel Moon was the 5th worst movie of 2023, obviously from the movies I've watched. Sue me Netflix, I'm sorry, it was pretty bad. That's number 5. Moving on to number 4. This is a movie I hope no one in the chat has watched, but being a movie reviewer, a movie critic, I have to watch shit like Ghosted. Ghosted is what you would imagine a movie written by ChatGPT to sound like and look like. Because if this movie was not written by ChatGPT, I'm an idiot, because this movie's writing was awful. First of all, controversial take. I'm sorry. Unless Ana de Armas has an incredibly talented director like Denis Villeneuve directing her, she cannot act. Controversial take. I've already had this argument with Joe and Franco on the podcast. I'm sorry. If she doesn't have a massively talented director like Denis Villeneuve directing her, Ana de Armas is not a good actress. That's number 1. Chris Evans, whose journey post MCU has been quite choppy, has been ups and downs. This is definitely one of his downs, because Chris Evans' performances in this is also pretty bad. Now, to be fair, Dexter Fletcher, he did great with Rocketman. Yes, that's the big surprise, right? Because Dexter Fletcher had Rocketman, and Rocketman was one of my personal favorite movies of 2019, probably being, I think, 2 or 3, second or third position for 2019. I loved Rocketman. Love Rocketman. So, and looking at his other stuff, I haven't watched any of his other stuff, but they seem to be well liked, pretty well liked. And his TV miniseries here, The Offer, again, I haven't watched, but I've heard very, very good stuff about this. Oh, this is the Godfather one. All right. Okay. Interesting. I've heard of this. I've heard. Apparently, it's very good. But I haven't watched it. So this is a talented director. And you're going to see this also with the next one, with Heart of Stone. Well, I spoiled the next number, number 3, Heart of Stone. But anyways, you're going to see it with the next movie as well. You've got talented directors who are picked up by Amazon, by... the upsetting thing is also it's Apple, and Apple has been doing really good in the streaming wars. I think Apple create the best stuff for streaming. But this just did not work. I'm sorry. Uninspired, completely forgettable, terrible action, disastrous acting. Dialogue was awful. And even Chris Evans was pretty bad in this. However, to be fair to Chris Evans and Ana de Armas, apparently there are many scenes where Chris Evans and Ana de Armas are in the same scene together, where they have a conversation, they're chatting together. But apparently, the two actors weren't actually there together. So there was either Chris Evans with someone dressed up like Ana de Armas, or Ana de Armas with someone dressed up like Chris Evans, which kind of explains why the chemistry between them was awful. Terrible chemistry. So yeah, that pretty much explains why Ghosted is my number 4 worst movie of 2023. And like I spoiled, number 3 is Heart of Stone, starring another actress, I'm sorry, who cannot act, and that is Gal Gadot. This is another movie that I believe was completely written by ChatGPT. I'm sorry, Netflix exclusives are generally terrible, and this is another terrible Netflix exclusive. It's hollow, nothing about it works, the CGI is awful, the dialogue and the writing for this literally rotted my brain. The action, again, uninspired, boring, disappointing. And the fact that they actually ripped off Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning is really disappointing. Now, Bruce, you mentioned how good of a director, obviously, Dexter Fletcher is. But here we've got another talented director. Here we've got a director who's directed stuff like Peaky Blinders, who directed War and Peace. This is a talented director who's done some great stuff. But he's picked up by Netflix, and he ends up directing a shit movie like Heart of Stone. Again, I'm sorry, but Gal Gadot cannot act. Punto basta. Now, the next movie is, you will know, as a critic, I try to watch every single movie I ever start, right? I press play. Up to that point, I'm in. The next movie is the one movie that actually broke me this year. That is The Outlaws. You're probably thinking, what the fuck is The Outlaws? Did this movie come out this year? Yes, it did. I saw Pierce Brosnan in it. It's like, I mean, you got Pierce Brosnan in it, right? How bad can it be? It's bad. It's really bad. It's really bad. This movie broke me. I managed to watch 30 minutes, 40 minutes of it. That's not Pierce Brosnan. None of these actors are real. These are CGI, AI generated images of them, spouting off dialogue written by ChatGPT. This is not a real movie. I'm sorry, this is not a real movie. This cannot be a real movie. It's terrible. Don't watch it. That's my number 2. But you might be thinking, what the hell? Is there a movie worse than The Outlaws this year? Yes, there is. Because this is the year that we got another terrible Netflix exclusive. Big surprise that the worst movie of the year is also a Netflix exclusive. That movie is You People. Yes, I got through all 2 hours of You People, and it was a struggle. Coming into You People, we commented about the trailer. Me and Franco, I believe, commented about the trailer. It looked interesting. The dynamic between Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy looked interesting, looked fascinating, seemed to be a great watch. I had no idea that the dynamic between Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy would be so bad. Like, how did they manage to make a bad movie with Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy opposite each other? First of all, it's unfunny. But it's unfunny. You've got great actors, great comedic actors on screen. It's unfunny because the dialogue they spout is I really have no words. This is a moment where I fail as a critic to express how bad of a movie You People is. I would put also Murder Mystery 2 in the worst movies of the year. Thankfully, Keith, I was saved from watching that movie. So that's why it's not in, probably why it's not in the list. I haven't watched Murder Mystery 2. So that's why it's not in my personal list. These are obviously all the movies I've watched. Um, I don't know if any of the viewers here or listeners are on X, Twitter. There are certain people on X and on Twitter who try to showcase how woke they are, basically. But they come off as middle, upper middle class, rich, upper middle class, privileged people trying to showcase how woke they are. This is that movie. Jonah Hill spends 2 hours trying to convince Eddie Murphy he's not racist. The movie. That's it. And this is just so bad. You might have seen the scene where Jonah Hill and Lauren London, I believe that was Lauren London. I might be wrong. Yeah, Lauren London, where they kiss. Apparently, I mean, clearly, they do not kiss because the kissing scene was looked off, looked completely off. Now, I had no idea. It looked off to me, but I was like, I mean, maybe it's just how awful the chemistry between the two is, right? Maybe that's why it seemed off. Well, then I found out later on, watching Corridor Crew. Thank you, Franco, for mentioning them to me, because now you ruined my life and all I do is watch Corridor Crew. Watching Corridor Crew, they explained that that kiss actually wasn't real. Apparently, they CGI'd the kiss, and they CGI'd the kiss awfully. But that is only one of the many reasons why You People is the worst movie of the year. It's a waste of talent. The editing in this movie is just broke me. Just broke me as a critic watching it. I'm like, no one can be this bad editing a movie. Like, no one can be this bad editing a movie. Now, editing my past YouTube videos, those were awful. Looking at them now, I think, Jesus, how did I edit those reviews so badly? But the editing in You People is worse than my YouTube reviews. Oh my God. And so, You People is my number one worst movie of 2023. Viewers and listeners in the chat, let me know in the comment section below what are some of the worst movies and some of the most disappointing movies you've watched in 2023. If you are still watching, and still enjoying this podcast, please leave a like on the video. I much appreciate you still being here. With that, guys, I'm going to take a 2-minute break. And when I'm back, I have 3 reviews for you, 3 quick reviews. I'm not going to spend too much time on them. I've already published my reviews on Letterboxd, and I've sent them to Ashley as well to be posted on Multipop. But my reviews are going to be one for Eileen, one for Society of the Snow, and one for Good Grief, which just came out on Netflix. 2-minute break, guys, and I will be back. See you in a bit. In the meantime, let me know what were your worst and most disappointing movies of 2023. See you in a couple of minutes. All right, so let's get into the reviews. Three short reviews for you today. None of the movies are, like the big movies. But obviously, here at the Adler podcast, we like to give attention not just to the big movies, but also to the small movies that release everywhere, basically. Today we've got, like I said, we're going to start off with Eileen. So let's get into Eileen. Don't know if anyone here, viewers and listeners, if anyone has watched Eileen, starring Thomasin McKenzie and also starring the amazing Anne Hathaway. So, Eileen itself is based on, oops, not share that on the screen. There we go. So, Eileen itself was based on the 2015 novel of the same name by Otessa Moshfegh. It's directed, obviously, by William Oldroyd. Now, William Oldroyd, I hadn't watched his previous movie, Lady Macbeth, which I forgot to mention. Lady Macbeth, I loved that movie. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed Lady Macbeth. Very well made movie. If you haven't watched it so far, please do check it out. It's an incredibly well made movie. Anyways, so William Oldroyd directs Eileen, which is set in 1960s Massachusetts, focusing on the 24-year-old Eileen Thomasin McKenzie, who lives in an unhappy life with an unsatisfactory job, an abusive drunk father, and an unhappy personal life. Throughout the movie, we see how Eileen is sexually frustrated, constantly showcasing voyeuristic tendencies. However, her life changes when a new psychologist, Rebecca St. John, who is Anne Hathaway, joins the prison staff. And so the relationship starts off between Eileen herself and Anne Hathaway's character. Bruce, I gotta say, Magic Mike's Last Dance was a huge disappointment. Soderbergh back at the helm, but it came off as a ludicrous excuse to promote the stage show. Bruce, as we discussed already, I haven't watched any of the Magic Mikes. I've always been quite, I wouldn't say snobbish, but there are some movies which are like, yeah, they're not made for me. Now I would watch them, right? Now I would watch them because now I have to watch everything. But when the original Magic Mike came out, I was like, I only watched stuff I wanted to watch and I thought were made for me. Maybe I should check out the first one though. I know you really like the first one, right, Bruce? I should check out the first one at least. So that's one I'll put in my watch list. Back to the review of Eileen. So I have to say, first of all, that Eileen, in my opinion, is a beautifully directed movie by William Oldroyd and beautifully shot movie. It's got some great cinematography. I think the composition of the movie is fantastic. The stunning 60s cinematography by Australian DP Ari Wegner, who's done stuff like, oh my God, Power of the Dog, like Power of the Dog, for example, which is a fantastically shot movie. So props to DP Ari Wegner for his fantastic cinematography, also in Eileen. And I would call it quite a, if I had to categorize it, I'd call it like a sexy psychological thriller. That I think if you're into these kinds of movies, into these kind of like psychological thrillers, you will enjoy, but you might be a little bit disappointed with the final 20 minutes. I was disappointed by the final 20 minutes. I know Joe was, and I know Franco was as well. So, but let's start off with the positives first. I always like to start off with the positives. First of all, I have to say that I thought the two central performances, Anne Hathaway and Thomasin McKenzie, were, I would say, good. I think Anne Hathaway runs away with it. However, she is such a presence. Her take as a femme fatale was fantastic. However, I must also say that the dynamic between them worked really well. One negative with regard to Thomasin McKenzie's performance was her accent. When you take an accent, the worst thing you can do is go in and out of your accent, and she does that. Also, it sounds a little off, needs a bit of work there. However, I think that the way the relationship develops between the two is really interesting, and it is what had me personally hooked throughout pretty much most of the movie. The supporting cast, I thought, were also very good. I thought that the scenes that Marion Ireland was in were fantastic. She comes in with a fantastic performance near like the 3/4 into the movie, like near the end of the movie, and she really does stand out in the few scenes that she appears in. The writing and the screenplay I thought were pretty well done. I thought there was some decent dialogue between the two. I would say the dialogue is well done, but the overall screenplay unfortunately takes a turn for the worse in its final third. I'm going to explain why. So, the movie itself starts off as a very interesting character study in which we learn about this character, Eileen. We learn about all the remorse and all the loneliness, all the trauma she's been through. Um, that character and that personality of Eileen then starts to develop. And when she meets Anne Hathaway's character, we start to see the screenplay and the story turn into one of obsession, right? And kind of like lust for the character of Anne Hathaway. Now, up to that point, I was engrossed. I was loving the world that William Oldroyd had built here, and the characters and the thematic relevance of the choice of colors used, the tonality, the color tones, the lighting, the cinematography, all of it worked and worked really well. However, 2/3 into this movie, no spoilers, there is a twist. There is a massive twist, and you will know, as I mentioned, and I was talking about Succession, you'll know that I love it when a director builds up to something. And it feels like William Oldroyd is trying to build up to the twist that takes place in this movie. But I'm sorry, he doesn't manage to do so. The twist just comes out of nowhere and it feels so rushed, so rushed. And it all is kind of like concluded in the final 20 minutes of the movie. Listen, I understand what the director was going for, but the final twist needed more time to breathe. And I'm sad to say, because generally I want directors and editors to cut off and not add, but this movie needed at least 15 more minutes, which have really helped the final third of the movie to develop better. That is the one sin this movie commits. So overall, I would say that Eileen is a well-made movie. I enjoyed watching it. I would recommend it. I think it's a well-made movie with some very good performances, especially by Anne Hathaway, with her interesting take as a femme fatale, like I said. Good direction, fantastic cinematography, great work by the DP, Ari Wegner, well portrayed, period piece, straight from the 60s, good music, good lighting, everything about it is well done. And the costumes, love the costumes. But the production design overall was really well done as well. But unfortunately, what does stop this movie from being a great movie is its final 20, 25, 30 minutes. Once the twist happens, I was taken out of it. Everyone's performance was still very good, and the dialogue at times was still very good there, but that moment was rushed, so rushed, that it almost ruined the movie. Still, I would recommend it with a very decent, very good actually, 3.5 out of 5. I did quite like Eileen. So that is review number 1. Review number 2 is for a movie that came out on Netflix last week, I believe on Thursday. I watched this with my mom and dad, and that is a movie that got rave reviews when showcased at different, I believe it was showcased at the Venice Film Festival. I believe, yeah, Joe watched it as well. And that is Society of the Snow. Society of the Snow, which is the incredible survival story known as The Miracle of the Andes, which took place in 1972, which is a mind-blowing tale that defies belief. And director Juan Antonio García Bayona has now taken on the challenge of adapting Pablo Viergi's book, which gives accounts of all survivors of the crash. They also used interviews with many of the survivors and family members of those who died. And so, did Bayona and his writing team manage to produce a faithful piece of movie magic, or is it another horrible Netflix exclusive? No, it's not. It's a great movie. Yes, a great movie on Netflix. Surprise, surprise. So happy to tell you that Society of the Snow is so far my favorite movie released in 2024. Is it released in 20? I guess for me it is because it released in Malta on Netflix in 2024. So I'll count it as a 2024 movie. So, Society of the Snow, I think, is a faithful piece of movie magic, and it really does manage to help you, the viewer, understand what the experience must have felt like, must have been like being lost in the Andes for 72 days. And remember, these people suffer through starvation, through snow avalanches, and eventually, obviously, not a spoiler, of course, because this is a true historical event. As you'll probably know, all of the people who survived had to resort to cannibalism, which obviously, I mean, is a reality and it's showcased in the movie. So be prepared for that if you're going to watch Society of the Snow. Now, the biggest positive for this movie, and it has a lot of positives, is that technically this movie is a complete knockout. The cinematographer, the DP on this movie, uses a great mixture of stunning wide shots showcasing the stunning Andes mountains. Obviously, clearly, the whole point of these stunning wide shots is to show how small mankind is when contrasted with the impressive Andes mountains, right? The mountains themselves, and showcase how small these people are. And also, obviously, then to emphasize how impossible the task of surviving and getting out of this place was for the survivors of the plane crash. At the same time, then, the cinematographer also does a great job with his close ups. And the cinematographer uses some really extreme close ups, which showcase the terrible hardships our protagonist had to go through. And also really does a great job in creating this feeling of claustrophobia, right? That they experience, especially when you have these avalanches, these snow avalanches that completely lock them in underneath the plane, basically. There are some moments in this movie where the tension was pretty much too much for me, and I was like, I had to pause for a second. I had to take a breather because, oh my God, it is heavy stuff here. It's intense, it's heartbreaking. Some of the scenes will have you shocked to no end, and it's all beautifully portrayed. However, it's very well done, very well done movie. Um, I also have to compliment the cast. The cast does a great job overall. It's a mixture of debutant Uruguayan and Argentinian actors who do a really good job. However, I feel like the great screenwriting and the great direction by Bayona really help create these heartfelt performances by our protagonists. To conclude, I wanted to mention also the soundtrack by Michael Giacchino, which is fantastic. I'm sure that's going to be one of the best soundtracks of the year. And my big negative, this didn't come out in the cinema. This is a movie I wanted to watch in the cinema and deserves to be showcased in cinemas. Unfortunately, I had to watch it on television. Listen, it's gruesome, it's brutal, doesn't give you a break, it's heartbreaking at times, it's everything you would expect out of a disaster movie. However, through all that bleakness and through all that brutal stuff that you see, there is always a glimmer of hope. And that glimmer of hope is that the camaraderie between the team is what will save them. And that is, in fact, what does end up helping them survive throughout all the difficulties they face and the dreadful situation that they were in. Society of the Snow is a great start to 2024 for Netflix, and I hope that signs that we will have more Societies of the Snow and less You People on Netflix in 2024. My hopes aren't high, but something like Society of the Snow really does make me happy that we get stuff like this. It should be on the cinema. It really should be showcased in the cinema. But Society of the Snow is a very well made movie and a great start to 2024. My rating for Society of the Snow is a 4 out of 5. And with that, moving on to the final review of the day, which is going to be my review for Good Grief, another Netflix exclusive directed by Dan Levi and also written by Dan Levi. Just a second, guys. I'm going to take a quick sip and I'll finish the review. All right, so Good Grief. Now, I actually wasn't going to watch this movie. I thought I was going to go watch Anyone But You. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a change of plans. I'll watch Anyone But You this week. And instead, I got to watch Good Grief on Netflix. I heard some mixed stuff about it, some positives, some negatives. So I went in hoping for the best, as in the past 2 years, I've always gone into a movie trying to enjoy it. No longer am I going to get into a movie with a negative mindset. That's my decision as a movie critic. I'm going in to enjoy it. I want to enjoy it. And despite having several issues, I did quite like also Good Grief, which is a Netflix exclusive. So, what is Good Grief? Good Grief is Dan Levi's directorial film debut. It is would say, a mixture of a comedy and a drama with some obviously very important romantic elements mixed in there as well. The movie starts off with Mark, who is Dan Levi, who is enjoying a Christmas party with his husband, Oliver, who is Luke Evans, the very talented Luke Evans, and their group of friends. Unfortunately, Oliver was forced to leave early due to a book signing, dies a few seconds after leaving the apartment due to a car crash, due to a car accident, and as you can see in the description, Mark's world shatters, sending him and his two best friends on a soul-searching trip to Paris that reveals some hard truths they each needed to face. That's pretty much the whole movie, right? Now, the positives for the movie, I do believe that this movie, Good Grief, is a very, very mature exploration into several important themes that I believe should be touched by many movies, because these are experiences we all have. Stuff like grief. How do you get through a difficult period of time, especially when you're grieving? Mourning. How do you get through a difficult period of time when you're mourning the death of someone who was close to you? And this is not just Mark, because Mark, obviously, Dan Levi is our main protagonist. But we've got characters like Sophie and Thomas, who are Mark's best friends, who are also experiencing difficulties in both their personal and professional lives. And we see these characters grow and change through their experiences together as a group of three friends. And that is, I think, in my opinion, the best thing about this movie, seeing how these three characters develop and grow through their experiences. It's really well done, very mature, very well done, very well written. And clearly, of course, the movie does give much more attention to Mark's character and his own experiences and how love after death is affecting his life and how he can, in very crude terms, get over the death of his husband. Now, with the very good writing in that element, because I'm also going to criticize the writing later on, but with that good element of the writing, I also have to say that the three main performances, Dan Levi, Ruth Negga, and not David Bradley, but Himesh Patel, the three main performances are quite well done. I think Dan Levi himself is effortless in his screen presence. Fantastic performance by him. I thought Ruth Negga was very good comedic performance, but also very heartfelt at times. So she was very good. But like I spoiled a little bit before, I have to mention the legendary David Bradley, who you will know as Argus Filch, who you will know from Game of Thrones. He's the great actor. Let's see if I can bring him up here. There he is, the legendary David Bradley. One of the big reasons why I also watched this movie was knowing that David Bradley was in this. He also gives a fantastic performance in this. He has a particular speech during the funeral, which almost actually brought tears from me. It's such a heartfelt speech, really well done. He's a legend of an actor, and David Bradley was fantastic in this. Because, yes, like I've hinted, this is a very emotional film. Go into it if you're the kind of person who cries when it comes to these like sad romantic comedies, romantic dramas. Be prepared to cry because it's a very emotional film. However, moving on to the negatives, then I have to mention that I did feel some elements of this movie were missing. And the biggest of this is the main issue of the movie. Now, this might be a personal thing, could be just me. But when it comes to movies which try to tackle very rich, very privileged characters, I find it very hard to empathize with them. Unless, I mean, even with something like, with something like Succession, the characters are so well written, and I mean, yes, the characters are evil, but don't get me wrong. I mean, when you've got talented actors like Mark Strong, what's his name, Culkin, and Sarah Snook, I would be lying if I didn't admit that there were times where I empathized with those evil characters, evil rich characters. Here, I struggled a little bit to empathize with the characters. And the reason is very simple. I mean, all right, they've been through something that anyone can experience, right? The death of a husband, loss of a boyfriend, loss of of a friend, and loss of a potential boyfriend from all the different characters we have here. These are things that everyone experiences. But then seeing them travel to Paris to recover from heartbreak, staying in this alleged super expensive, super beautifully designed apartment in Paris, in the center of Paris, with the view of of all of Paris underneath them. I'm sorry, I find it very hard to feel anything, to empathize with these characters, because I too wish I could travel to Paris if I was recovering from heartbreak. Meaning that however heartfelt the writing is here, however heartfelt the performances are, the movie still kept me at arm's length due, I believe, to no fault of its own, just the fact that I find it very hard to empathize with privileged, rich people in a movie. And again, that could be just me. Viewers and listeners, let me know if you also struggle when it comes to, very rich, very privileged characters in a movie. But that could just be me. So if that's not something that affects you, you're going to love this. Trust me, you're going to love this. Me personally, I think this is still a well-directed, well-shot movie. I think the movie takes very good advantage of the settings. Both London and Paris are well shot, well integrated into the movie. I love when a movie does a really good job in integrating the setting into being an important plot point in the movie, and Good Grief does a very good job at that. I think this is a very fine, earnest debut by Dan Levy, and I'm very much looking forward to what more he can offer. Unfortunately, it was lacking in a bit too many elements for me to completely suggest this movie to our viewers and listeners. But with that, I think if you are in the right emotional state and if you're up for a simple tear-jerking indie drama, I think Good Grief is just the movie for you. And I mean, it's there available on Netflix, so why not, right? Why not? Just another cog in the Netflix content. And so my rating for Good Grief, I was between a 3 and a 3.5, but thinking a bit more about it, I think Good Grief deserves a decent 3 out of 5. I think it's well deserving of a 3 out of 5. But still, don't get me wrong, I did quite like it. However, some of the negative elements did, reduce the rating for me a little bit. And with that, dear viewers and listeners, right now we had 9, now we have 8 viewers watching right now. Thank you so much for joining me this Tuesday evening and hearing me talk, rant, and chat about movies and series, as I love to do. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, this is the end of the podcast. As always, don't forget to leave a like. If you are not yet subscribed, please do subscribe and let your friends and your family know how much you are enjoying the Adlib podcast. It's 2024, and I'm looking to take the podcast to greater heights. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you for that. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Hope to have you on the podcast very soon as well. Lots of very exciting topics coming up. We've got the next week, we've got the most anticipated movies of 2024. That's always a fantastic episode. We've got Francesca joining us for that episode, like she did last year. Thank you, Keith, as well. Thank you for that. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And with that, I'm going to go rest my voice because I have 6 lessons tomorrow. So it's very important I rest my voice. Have a good night, everyone. And as always, take care. Ciao, ciao, guys.